Does the soul retain its connection with loved ones down here? I think some of the answer lies immediately in our prayer service as we recite on most Shabbos over the course of the year when we say B'chayehem u'b'mosam lo nifradu, in their passing just as in their lifetime, they do not become separated. And as Kabbalah itself stresses, the relationship between loved ones is chiefly of a spiritual nature, much more so than that of a physical. The bond between a husband and wife, between a parent and child, between any kind of loved one is essentially something so much deeper than you can possibly describe in any practical physical terms. It's something that anyone who's been in that kind of relationship will undeniably describe as a deep spiritual connection. And the point being that even as the physical may be removed from our midst, that spiritual bond remains intact for all of eternity. A husband continues to be a husband, or a wife continues to be a wife. A parent continues to function in that capacity, albeit on a more spiritual level. So the bond certainly remains very much intact. There was a story of a young man who was seen deeply depressed, waiting outside to go into a private audience with the Rebbe. And the Hasidim who observed him noticed when he finally went in, after a period of time, he came out and seemed to be suddenly so much more uplifted. And one of them dared to ask what happened. And this young man explained that he had lost a rather young child and that he fell into a deep depression. But when he was in his private audience, the Rebbe just asked him a simple question. If you knew that your loved one was okay, albeit somewhere far away where you could not communicate, but you were sure that your loved one was nevertheless okay, would that give you some element of joy and happiness? And he said, certainly so. And then the Rebbe continued and said, and if you knew you were able to give gifts to this loved one, which you knew with certainty he was receiving, albeit there was no way for him to formally acknowledge it to you, would you still send those gifts? And the man again acknowledged and said, certainly so. And then the Rebbe proceeded to explain that's precisely the relationship that exists now between you and your son. He is certainly in a very special place. He is certainly somewhere where he's receiving immense spiritual euphoria of sorts. You need to be reassured that even as you may not be able to, in the practical sense, communicate with him, there is the comfort in knowing that he is okay. And you do have the very real ability to continue to send gifts to him through the tzedakah that you give in his merit, through the davening, the praying that you will do in his honor, through the learning that you will do for the benefit of his soul. These are all gifts that gives immense elevation and joy to his soul. And knowing that, again, in itself should make you find some comfort because it essentially demonstrates that the connection, that soul connection, remains intact for all of eternity. What people do need to appreciate that is fundamental to Jewish belief, to Kabbalistic belief, is that even as we cannot hear our loved ones, they can certainly continue to hear us and beseech on our behalf, even as we can't necessarily appreciate in the practical sense how we are talking to them. They are receiving and hearing everything that we might be saying. They are whispering love into our hearts. And even as we cannot physically embrace them, they are certainly always reaching out and taking us into their ethereal embrace.
What did you think about this video? Comment below and click subscribe for more videos like this.